All right, forecast. First, let's take a look at the dollar right here. We are already seeing an expansion actually after coming or reaching below right there the swing low. Not even coming into the overlapping part. Now again, it's only Monday. We still have Tuesday to go before the actual news kicks in as well into the market. But it is quite interesting to see what this Tuesday will do, because if it will already expand, create potentially an expansion phase of a daily Verweij gap, then of course we have to take that into account and not bet our money on waiting forever for it to come into the overlapping part to then continue higher. So that is of course quite important to understand as well. But again, like mentioned, we wait on Tuesday and we see what does Tuesday want to do, and then we'll see on Wednesday where we are at and how we can potentially get involved as well. Then on ES right here, what are we seeing? We have reached a target right there, and we are seeing a rejection right now. On the lower time frame, 1 hour, 15 minutes, etc., was actually not too bad price action overall. It was not too bad. Nasdaq was quite interesting as well. On the daily time frame, I do think that we could be creating, and like we've done right there, daily Verweij gaps to eventually just continue higher off of that as well. Nasdaq, same exact thought process. There's no stopping Nasdaq right here. I think we are very easily heading towards the all-time highs right there. We are seeing a rejection, and that rejection was again quite clean on the 1 hour, failed to create a Verweij gap higher after sweeping that high to the left. 15 minute right there. Overall quite nice price action. Not super clean delivery, but quite nice price action. Then eventually we are just creating a daily Verweij gap right there to potentially continue higher off of that. So that is also quite interesting. YM, let's see. YM here has reached all-time highs actually. And it is very important to understand what you do in a scenario like this, because you ideally want to wait for a very clear retracement right now to then see if we want to continue higher. All-time highs is quite difficult to approach because either you're going to likely, if you've never had all-time highs or anything, likely you're going to chase price or you're going to try to call a top in the market. Neither of those things is something you would want to do. So you simply want to wait for either a retracement right there to continue higher, or very clear signs that we are sweeping it to then continue lower. No in between. We want to wait for very clear signs. Very important. On DAX, let's see. Here we are continuing higher. And on the 4 hour, we mentioned, all right, if we can get a new 4 hour Verweij gap higher, which we actually got, I believe, or no? No, that was, well, Sunday. The last candle actually got created right there. But if we can create new Verweij gaps higher, it could be nice to eventually target the swing high that we are seeing on the daily as well right there. Then looking at Australian dollar, US dollar. Again, we are coming into this daily Verweij gap, but this is not necessarily a daily Verweij gap that I would want to trade off of. Mainly because it's just coming into that daily Verweij gap very aggressively. And if I would want to trade off it, then I would want to wait for 4 hour Verweij gaps lower. In the meantime, this is simply said not interesting to me. EU right here. Now EU is quite interesting. If it already wants to continue lower as well and just follow the dollar, then I would wait for a 4 hour Verweij gap lower. But if we come into that overlapping part still, then I would definitely want to see if we can continue lower off of that as well. GU as well, not super interesting right here. Don't really want to get involved as well. Just not really interesting. New Zealand dollar, US dollar reached the lows finally. Quite interesting. After we have to see right now if it does not want to sweep the lows or if it wants to continue lower. So here I want to wait a little bit more. US dollar, Canadian dollar. Now, the US dollar, Canadian dollar was quite interesting until, what can we see? We failed to create a sharp turn lower. So if we can now get a daily Verweij gap higher, actually that could be quite interesting overall. It really depends here as well what the dollar wants to do. So we really have to wait right here on what the dollar actually wants to do to see if it actually wants to continue higher or continue lower. If the dollar wants to continue higher, USD Canadian dollar could very well, could actually be quite interesting. If the dollar wants to continue lower, then US dollar, Canadian dollar creating bearish Verweij gaps could as well be very interesting. US dollar CHF though is not super interesting in my eyes, and I don't really like it. It's just nothing really going on here, so I also don't want to trade it. US dollar JPY. Now this one is quite interesting, with a potential target being this first previous week high right there. We're coming into the daily fair value gap right there as well. We can look to continue higher overall. On the 4 hour, do we have something? On the 4 hour, we don't have anything. On the 15 minute though, what we saw was actually an entry opportunity right here. We had an ST right there, quite clean price action overall. I do quite like this. We had an ST right there. Afterwards, we have a very small fair value gap sitting right there. And afterwards, we came into the breaker again, or sorry, the order block actually, order block right there again, to then continue higher off of that. So quite interesting price action right here. If we can follow through on a new 1 hour fair value gaps, etc., that could be another entry to add on to look to target the previous week high as well right there. Definitely something I am paying very close attention to. This is very interesting right here. Even with US dollar news, we had JPY news at the beginning of the week. So that compensates, I would argue, for the US dollar news as well. So this is definitely very interesting. And then once the US dollar news comes into play, it just picks up. The steam just picks up overall. The volatility picks up where it left off right there. Very interesting. Silver. Let's see. All right, we got an expansion phase of a daily fair value gap lower. So if we can now get a new daily fair value gap lower right there, and we can continue lower off of that, it's exactly what I was looking for. So that is definitely quite interesting. I would wait for the daily fair value gap lower though. Gold right here. Gold did not create the expansion phase of a daily fair value gap lower. In fact, it just consolidated overall. All right, that's also quite interesting. But this is not something I would want to trade right here. Bitcoin, there it is, into the weekly fair value gap. And can we already continue higher here off of this weekly fair value gap? That will be very interesting to see. If we can, then I would want to wait for the right confirmation to potentially take a nice swing trade to continue higher as well. Crude oil, let's see. It seems almost an expansion phase going higher off the previous daily fair value gap right there. 4 hour we already have, 4 hour fair value gaps higher as well. Definitely seems like we want to trade into the monthly fair value gap sitting right there. Could be interesting. I still want to wait a little bit though. Nifty did not move actually. All right, it's been closed. I'm not sure what Nifty times actually are. So I believe it might open up tomorrow. Yes, Tuesday right there. All right. So nothing changed here on Nifty, still expecting lower prices. Let's look at the long list. Well, we went over it already. US dollar JPY right there. Look at the waiting list. EU, US dollar, Canadian dollar, went over it. Australian dollar, Canadian dollar. Let's see, what are we actually seeing? Daily right there. Are we going to the monthly? Yeah, this was the monthly value gap right there to continue higher off of that. So here we are getting early signs that we coming into that daily value gap, not creating a new daily value gap lower off of that. Then we are now creating a new daily value gap higher off of that as well, potentially, right? Because we still have a lot of hours to go, but we are potentially creating that right there. We have an early ST right here on the 4 hour, then also potentially a re after that. This is definitely something I am going to add to the long list as well. Definitely interesting. Then Australian dollar JPY. Let's see. Daily value gap, previous day low sweep actually currently happening right there. That's actually quite nice price action, and it's a shame that I did not actually look at it actively, but this is very interesting overall, where we had Monday coming into the daily value gap, low close. So the previous day low right there is actually the discount rate we are looking to trade off of. After that, did we even get a setup or did we just take off? Let's see. Well, I would argue we just took off right there. Very interesting though, very interesting. And eventually, of course, 4 hour value gaps right now to target higher. That's quite nice price action overall. Quite interesting. Australian dollar, New Zealand dollar. Let's see. On the daily, continuing higher towards those highs right there. All right, so the draw liquidity is quite clear. We're just not really getting a clear. Well, actually on the 4 hour, we had quite a clear discount rate sitting right there. So let's see. And majority of these are also Asia pairs, right? So this is definitely something you can also look to trade during Asia. Ooh, that's a nasty sting That's a nasty sting. I think that's a market rollover right there. That is a nasty sting. So it's not really, when I see something like that happen, I'm also not really looking to get involved. Because simply said, the long wick sort of ruins the overall price action. Because the target is already hit very fast after that. So, Canadian dollar JPY. Let's see. Very close to the drawn liquidity. Daily discount rate is not there. Do we have something on a 4-hour? Not there. Is there something on the weekly? Not there. So here I'm still putting it on the waiting list or leaving it on the waiting list simply because we're not having that clear discount rate to continue higher off of. Euro Australian dollar. Let's see. Into the daily VWAP gap. Not creating a bearish daily VWAP gap. So that's a good sign. Overall, we don't really have anything to work with just yet. I want to wait either for daily VWAP gap higher or daily VWAP gap lower to confirm the ID. So still waiting. Euro JPY, let's see. As well, nothing to work with. Did not come into the daily VWAP gap or anything. So here, still want to wait as well. Euro New Zealand dollar, daily VWAP gap. We came into that last week. Monday continued higher with a very deep retracement actually. Reached the target. Don't really like the price action overall, and we have reached that target that we were actually talking about. So here I just want to take a step back as well. GBP New Zealand dollar, target very close. Let's see. Daily, if ideally we can create a daily VWAP gap right there to continue higher off of that, that could be very interesting. 4-hour, not that interesting, and that would be quite a heavy retracement to then continue higher off of. Ideally a daily VWAP gap, that could be interesting, but we would still be waiting right here. So my main interest is definitely US dollar JPY, and Australian dollar Canadian dollar right here is also really, really interesting to me. All right, perfect. Thank you.